Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, warshippers of all ages, welcome to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today we're bringing you a first look at Tier VIII Premium Pan-Asian Destroyer, Fenyang. Now, you may have seen an announcement of this ship maybe about 4 or 5 weeks ago, somewhere along those lines. She has come to the server for super testing. Of course, as is the case with these things, we can't show you gameplay, but I can take you on a tour of the ship in port. We can talk about what makes her what she is, and so on and so forth. So let's get to it. At her core, as you may have surmised by looking at the pictures, reading any of the text in the blog announcements, or straight up just kind of looking at this ship as I'm showing it to you here. Hey, Raptor, that's an Akizuki. Yes, it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is an Akizuki, the Tier VIII Japanese tech tree destroyer, now Pan-Asianified and in premium form. So you're going to hear me, much like the Vampire Deuce's kind of look yesterday, you're going to hear me talk about, I'm going to refer back to Akizuki a lot, talking about what the differences are between the two ships. So if you want to look at a Fenyang, basically go into your port, pull up an Akizuki. You don't even have to be, you can just go in the tech tree, even if you don't own one, and then I'll talk you through what's different, okay? So starting down the list, as we always do, let's look at survivability. Hit point pool, 19,700 raw unbuffed. That is not quite as much as Akizuki, but we're only talking about 700 hit points here. Akizuki tops out, I think it's 20,400. Sounds correct. Something 20 and change for Akizuki. So they've taken away a few of her hit points. I feel like this is an acknowledgement of the fact that Fenyang's consumable loadout is a little different, and it's actually radically different. We'll show you that in a minute. And as a result, she gets Pan-Asian smoke, which means their smoke durations are a little shorter, but she gets more of them. So I think that's the reason for this here. This is a little bit of a balancing decision. Take away a few hit points. I'll just show you the armor. This ship has no armor. It's a destroyer. It's 19mm plating throughout. Congratulations. I mean, destroyers, we can almost skip this category on, right? Kind of what's the point? However, when it comes to maneuverability and concealment, those are critical categories for destroyers. Maneuverability, 33 knots, 730-meter turning circle, 4.5-second rudder shift. These first two are identical to Akizuki. This last is actually an improvement. A little more than a second of improvement, I believe. So, yeah, this is a note. Like, Akizuki doesn't handle well already. And some of that is, it's all in this turning circle. 730-meter turning circle for a destroyer is not good and noticeable, right? You will notice that this ship handles, our Akizuki as herself, like, she handles kind of questionably, right? Especially at these, she's a little slow and sluggish, but she's a little quicker to respond on the rudder than kind of her tech tree cousin. Will you notice this? Actually, this difference is large enough that you might actually notice it somewhat. With Vampire Deuce yesterday, no, there was no chance. But today, yeah, you might actually notice this one on Fenyang. Concealment, again, we're identical to Akizuki here. Full stealth rig gets you down to about, I think it's 6.1 or 6.0 concealment, something like that. It's basically the same. So yeah, she has the exact same stealth characteristics as Akizuki at Tier VIII. So no change there. Nothing unusual worth writing home about. Main battery. This is what makes Akizuki so nasty and deadly, of course. She gets these 4 double-barreled 100mm guns with a fairly quick reload. Now, we got to talk about this for a minute. Okay, you see there the base reload on Fenyang's main battery there, 5.2 seconds. Okay, now I'm pretty confident. We're gonna go look at Akizuki real fast. I'm pretty confident. Yeah, see there, Akizuki, 3 seconds. Something funny going on here, kids. So we've gimped the main battery, okay, by a lot, let's say. What other differences do we detect there? So she reloads almost 100% slower. The other thing you're going to notice, if you looked very carefully, you saw Akizuki got 30mm of penetration off her guns, unbuffed. I didn't have a captain on that ship, and so no IFHE. You see here on Fenyang, we're back to standard penetration values, 17mm. So these shells hit harder. Akizuki's shells, I don't know if you noticed, they were 1,200 and 1,700. These shells are 1,500 and 1,900. So individually, each shell hits harder, but they pen basically for about half. They'll penetrate about half of the armor that Akizuki's shells will, and they fire almost twice as slow. Some weird stuff going on here. I don't understand where they're going with this main battery. The reload thing I can kind of understand a bit, but that's 17 millimeters of penetration. That will not even penetrate an enemy destroyer. That will not even penetrate an enemy destroyer. Most destroyers have a 19 millimeter hull. So you have to take IFHE on this captain for your guns to be useful against enemy destroyers? What is happening? Okay, all right. Well, we'll come back to this in a minute. I'm not enamored of her main battery already, because in my mind those are two noteworthy deficiencies, to say the least. Okay, she does get a higher fire chance on the shells, so I mean she might be a bit more of a fire starter, but you're just not. Akizuki's known for that rate of fire, right? You're putting lots of these shells downrange. They're small shells. There's an argument to be made that Akizuki, Kitakaze, and Haragumo's guns are a little busted. I've had that conversation. I'm not entirely positive where I sit on that fence, but I feel like this might be going a little bit of an overcorrection, going too far in the wrong direction. And you see their 12.5 main battery firing range, pretty reasonable. Nothing to sneeze at with these guns. Like Akizuki, she has a single midships quadruple tube torpedo launcher. Okay, in this instance, she gets deep water Pan-Asian torpedoes, but not like the tech tree. The tech tree Pan-Asian torpedoes can hit cruisers. Fenyang here cannot. She can only hit, you see it there, a deal damage to carrier and battleship. So she is kind of a battleship hunter with these torpedoes. These are like the deep water versions of the Type 9 Type 90 Mod 1s. Okay, so they reload pretty slow there. 122 seconds on a single launcher is not so amazing, but 67 knots. That 0.8 detection there you see, that's going to give whatever ship detects these less than 5 seconds to react to them. So if you lead them right, these will hit and they will absolutely hurt. Okay, if you've played against an Asashio, you kind of know what you're in for here. It's a very similar sort of torpedo that will ignore cruisers but hit enemy capital ships. AA defense. This is actually kind of noteworthy, and you'll see why in a minute, all right? So she starts off, of course, with 5 flak bursts there, 1,400 damage per cloud. Most of this, of course, coming out of those dual-purpose main battery guns that she has. You see those here. Continuous damage, pretty solid here. The major thing that's happened here, the outer ring is basically the same as the AA you found on Akizuki. Akizuki's outer AA bubble is actually pretty solid. The main changes here are in her middle ring, whereas Akizuki mounts the little 25 millimeter Japanese triples. These mounts now have been upgraded to 40 millimeter Bofors. So Akizuki has a really, really good outer ring and a really, really good inner ring, but she only has an outer and an inner ring. You see here Fenyang now moves up to an outer ring based on these guys, and what amounts to a middle aura out to 3.5 kilometers based on the 40 millimeter Bofors. Now, you guys can roll your eyes about AA and destroyers all you want, but trust me, Akizuki's AA is not anything to sneeze at in the current system. And it actually gets better than that, and I'm about to show you why. Because here's her Consumables Loadout, okay? Look at this craziness. There's a lot going on here, so let's unpack it, all right? Of course, you get damage control party, typical. No big deal, nothing fancy here. Standard Pan-Asian smoke, okay? So all the Pan-Asian ships have the same basic smoke, 30-second action time, 70-second duration, 100-second reload, okay? She does get speed boost, a standard speed boost here, 8%, up for 120, down for 120. Torpedo reload booster. Again, this is something Akizuki gets. This is really, really nice. You're going to need this for those ridiculously long reload torpedoes. But again, torpedoes are a little less useful because of who they're restricted to launch against. And this is the really, really interesting consumable to me. This version of Akizuki gets defensive fire. Now, there's been an outcry for a long time in the community, and I concur with this. Okay, I'm on board this boat. Why doesn't Akizuki in the tech tree have defensive fire? The damn thing was designed as an AA destroyer from the main battery on up, and she doesn't have defensive fire. And what Wargaming has done now is they've opted to give that consumable here to her Pan-Asian cousin, I guess, for lack of a better word. This could be really good, right? Like, this ship could just... I feel like almost to some extent you're looking at like a kid, like a Japanese version of Kid, right? USS Tier VIII USS Premium American Destroyer USS Kid, which is a monster. It just eats planes, right? But it has a reduced torpedo armament in exchange for that. Now, Fenyang here doesn't really have a reduced torpedo armament because her torpedo armament was already not amazing because of the hull she was based on. But the AA right now looks really, 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 really good on paper. And I know there's people out there rolling their eyes at me, but trust me, guys, I've played enough AA Destroyer. This is noteworthy, okay? So, yeah, it's hard to know where I'm at with this ship right now. I want to be able to take her into a game and test her. I won't do that yet. I flatly refuse to be a super tester. That's not why I'm a community contributor. So sorry guys, that's not why I signed up. But the gimps to the main battery right now, I won't say it's a deal breaker for me, but it's really, really a head scratcher. It's almost like an acknowledgement that Akizuki's guns, her main battery, is overtuned already. So, we can't put another one of those in the game. So let's nerf the bejesus out of it and give it to this thing. I don't know. This is going to be a hard ship to fit out a captain for, too, in my opinion. Right? Because most destroyers, you basically have to take Concealment Expert, typically. And then but that's usually, in many cases, the only Tier 4 skill you quote-unquote have to have on your destroyer captain. But with this ship, you basically, in order to fight other destroyers and be effective, you're going to have to take IFHE with these guns. This was one of the big arguments, conversations that was had back when Akizuki and all that stuff was going into the game, 3 or 4 years ago, 4+ years ago, I think now, was, hey guys, actually, it would have been end of 2016. It was like, hey guys, 100 millimeters, 1/6 pen doesn't get me a whole lot. Doesn't even get me to where I can pen other destroyers. And they were like, oh, okay, we'll fix that. They gave everybody quarter pen, and it was like, okay, now you pen 25 millimeters. Okay. And now they're all the way up to basically it amounts to almost 1/3 pen. You get 30 millimeters of pen out of those guns, which by the time you add IFH on top of that, allows you to start doing nasty things to cruisers. I feel like they should have drawn that line somewhere else. I feel like a destroyer should be able to beat up another destroyer with the guns. I shouldn't have to take a specific skill for my main battery to be effective against other destroyers as a destroyer. Okay? You can argue if I want my guns to be effective against heavy cruisers and battleships and stuff, that I might have to invest some points. Okay, I can buy that, right? But fighting other destroyers is literally one of the things a ship like this is gonna do, has to be able to do. And right now, without some serious skill investment, and we're about to head into a place where you're going to have to invest a lot of points into captain training, commander skills. You can't, and I'm very disappointed to see this. So we'll see where they land. I'm cautiously optimistic they'll make some tweaks and some improvements in super testing. We're just going to have to see how that lands. Anyway, guys, there you go. There's our first look at Tier VIII Pan-Asian Premium Destroyer Fenyang. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Wash your hands, be safe, and I'll catch you next time.